Hello, everyone. The purpose of today's session is to help you with your assignment form, where you are asked to build a chatbot in a Watson Assistant application. So here is the agenda. We're gonna quick review what is a chatbot terminology that you must know. Then we're gonna apply the terminology called something like Mr. Bear My Chatbot application. Then I'm gonna show you some tips and tricks, best practices. Okay, questions and answers as always. All right. So, well, I have to tell this. I sound like a broken record, but look, the chatbot must be done. Implementation must be done 2 or 3 days before assignment is due because you have to collect the conversation data, right? And you have to analyze it. So you have 2 days of experiment, right? You want to make sure that your account is active. Don't do something like click to deactivate. Do not enter the credit card number, all right? Because see, for this assignment, there is no even limit on time. How you may use the service for as long as you want. Well, there is a limit on number of API calls, but nobody ever reached 1/10 of that limit, so that's why I never mention it. Okay, so let's say no limit, right? But do not deactivate your account. Before you start working on assignment, very important, you must earn at least 70% on a key concept quiz. Well, suppose you're running into an issue, right? You submit the ticket. I'm going to be using the vocabulary to help you, right? And if you don't know what an intent is, you know, right? I'm going to ask, have you taken the quiz? Okay, now this is very important. The walkthrough that you're asked to do, it's an example, but this is sequential. You cannot jump to the next page until the current exercise is done because uh, the ungraded exercise is required. What's coming on the next page is built on the exercise result. All right. Now, the chatbot that you develop for assignment for must be in your area of interest and original. For example, one good example is IT, information technology chatbot, right? It's in your area of interest, but still original. So you cannot go online and find an example and turn it in as your work, right? Well, you can reuse certain pieces of code, right? Like what I'm doing today, you can reuse some logic with state that I'll be doing, etc. Right? That's code reuse. But you cannot submit someone else's idea and claim as your own, right? Then you want to pay attention to the assignment deliverables. Well, if you're required to submit 2 files, right? Hopefully everyone knows how to count until 2. If if your JSON file is missing, the paper cannot be graded, right? Then keep in mind that you cannot, if you delete something, you cannot undo it, right? Unless you have to, if you want to write something stupid, let's say, what you want to do is first export the JSON file, all right? So that way you have a backup, and then you can re-import it always, right? If you mess something up. Then if you delete the Watson conversation service, yeah, you're gonna lose all your work, okay? Now, the only mistake you can make here is not asking for help. All right? There is no such a thing as a stupid question. There is a problem when you are stuck on something for days and not asking for help. Okay? Now, another thing, this is a must know terminology, and you have seen this. You have seen this in the classroom somewhere, I believe, right? So if you don't know what an entity is, then my explanation is not going to make sense to you. You would have to go back to the reading, right? Now, well, really quickly, what is it? So bot is a general system that does something automatically. It runs on regular basis on and rules, and it sort of like triggers something else to happen based on specified condition, based on the rules, right? But in chatbot understands your human language. So basically, you ask the question, right? Like for example, what is BMI? And if the chatbot is trained on this topic, it's gonna explain it to you. It's gonna return you the information, right? But chatbot is trained on specific topic. If my chatbot is on medical information, and if I asked something like who won last night hockey game, right? Something like that. The chatbot is not going to answer because it's not trained on that topic, right? So just know that piece. Oh, oops. Okay. So what is the high level steps? You need to define the application purpose. What are you working on, right? What's the point? Then you're going to define the conversation scenarios. You're going to build a flow diagram. Good news, you don't need to pay for the video. In the assignment instructions, you'll see where you can access the video as a student. Get free access, right? Then you're going to use Watson Assistant service to implement the chatbot, right? So the chatbot, the service that provide dialogue management capabilities. Then you're going to train the application through testing the defined scenarios. You're going to deploy the application. Well, in this case, deployment is a preview link. And you're going to monitor the conversation log. You also want to identify the current limitations of the current application, and you're going to suggest enhancement. And very important question is this. Uh, you might ended up like hard coding the responses, right? But instead, how can we do this differently without actually hard coding the responses? So think about it, right? Okay, so what is a Mr. BMI chatbot? It's a mission. So the user may run this application to estimate the body mass index based on height in inches and weight in pounds. So first of all, here, assumption. The entered height is in inches and weight is in pounds, right? So limitation, my chatbot does not support the unit conversion, okay? Now, you don't need to spend hours to just play around with the calculator or researching the information. The chatbot will just give it to you, okay? Then you can it helps you interpret the blood pressure reading, and the interpretation is consistent. Like okay, let's give an example. For example, if I get a blood pressure of 120 over 80, if it's normal, and then perhaps Professor Azan enters the same readings, it's gonna also give him that blood pressure is normal, right? So the same reading gets the same interpretation, so it's consistent. You don't need to pay anything to use an application. Then the conversation will start from greeting user, right? And all answers are consistent. But if there are some new questions, the application will require training if something outside the scope, right? So, and here is a preview. Take a look at this picture. This is Miss Stethoscope, all right? Now I'm gonna refresh to restart the chatbot, and you're gonna see a different character here. See this? Different character. But I kept Miss Stethoscope because I'm doing something in there. And what am I doing? Let's see here. I started with a preview to give a big picture. So, well, we have three doctors in the office, right? And each doctor works on a different shift. My laptop is in, it's set up in the Pacific time, even though I'm in Eastern time zone, but it picks up the time based on the time on my PC. So what it's doing is that depending on the time when I launch this chatbot, it displays a different picture of the doctor, right? So I just say, okay, those are the duty hours, and then the doctor on duty welcomes the user and displays the menu. In the preview here, the menu is displayed something differently. This is a drop down, and then you select an option of what you want to do, right? So in this here, there are several options, right? And we're gonna talk through that. So each option, I would say, it's almost like a conversation scenario. So let's go through. So what are the scenarios here? Well, basically, when you have the diagram of your conversation, a scenario is a pass through the diagram, let's say. So the first scenario, the user selects an estimate BMI, right, or types estimate BMI. The application will prompt to enter the height in inches and weight in pounds, but you can also type the number, right? You may enter the number, like for example, 60 inches, right? Or you may also type the word 60 and it's going to recognize it. If the input does not contain recognizable number, it's going to be asked to re-enter, right? So then this is examples, right? I can say I weigh 120 pounds and it's going to identify 120. And then the application is gonna calculate the BMI, okay? And it will check if you're in a healthy range. So if you go to this chatbot, see this is here. This is here. Estimate my body mass index, right? So what is your height in inches? If I type something like this chair, it's gonna ask me to re-enter because chair is not a number, right? So my height in inches, I'm a short girl. Okay, 60. Now, how many pounds do I weigh? I put my weight. There we go. And now it's going to do the calculation. Overweight, little bit overweight. So depending on what you enter, it's gonna calculate. So if with these readings I'm overweight, if you enter the same readings, you're gonna get the same results, right? So let's relaunch it. Usually after each option, usually at the end of the calculations, I show options, but not sure what happened here. Okay, now what else is okay? So this is just the preview. It's a big picture first, and then we're gonna look into the detail. Right? So the same thing is for my blood pressure. This is reading the number. Remember, attention, you have to have system entities in your assignment. So this is a system entity, reading the number. Number is a system entity, right? So I'm gonna do this one, my blood pressure. What is it gonna do? Oh well, for some unknown reason, okay, blood pressure reading. So this is, for some unknown reason, it's not picking up, the intent, but I have to look at it. Okay, what do you mean? I selected blood pressure reading, right? So my blood pressure reading, let me see. If I put 200, let's see what it's gonna do. Oh, I don't understand. Okay, and let me refresh. Well, basically, not sure what happened, but when you type the blood pressure reading, it's supposed to pick up the number and then it's supposed to do the math. I don't know why it's kicking off the response ambiguation. For some reason, it's kicking up the response configuration. I have to look into it. Okay. But anyway, this is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to do that. Let me see. Can one of those user entered numbers be collected as a context variable for later use? Yes, that's what it is. It's stored in the context variable. Exactly. That's what it is. It's stored in the context variable for later use. Yep. Yes, yes, yes. That's how it's done. But I start with the big picture first, and then we do that. Okay. Anyway, not sure what happened, why it's kicking on response ambiguation. But let me see here. Okay, so this is what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to ask you to read, right? But if your blood pressure is dangerously high, it's gonna tell you to go see the doctor. Okay. Well, this one is just to explain. So let's see, I can select what's BMI in here. So this is here what I can select, explain BMI. What is BMI? And this supposed to return me, what is this? So this is a text response type. This is an image response type. And this is a video response type. See, I can have the link to the video is part as one of my responses. In your assignment, you ask to put different response type, right? And this is what is this? This is just a video on YouTube. So when I click it, it's supposed to play, okay? I just showed you. When I clicked on it, it's supposed to play. All right? And this is just the heading that you specify. I'll show you the settings, okay? Now, and this is relatively new functionality, the video. Okay. Okay, now this is also same thing for the explain what's blood pressure. Now this one is email me the information. This is where the regular expression comes in. What is an email? So see here, I'm gonna select email me the information. There we go, email me the information. It's gonna ask me to enter the email address, and it's gonna check to make sure my email address syntax is valid. But let's do this. Suppose that I do this. Is it a valid email? No, right? Let's try this. Invalid email. How many times have I tried? Two, right? I tried 2 times. Let me try again. So 3 attempts, and that's it. See, after I entered 3 times, right? After 3 consecutive attempts, not entering correct email, I exit. So this is another logic. You have to have some kind. You can have some kind of like a counter, and when you reach certain number, you break because you cannot keep going and going and going and going until tomorrow morning, right? But I can try again. Email me the information and let me enter something that makes sense. x.hotmail.com. Well, it's not gonna try to attempt to send an email, but it's just checking if the email matches the specified pattern. See now, see here, it says, thank you. The information about BMI and blood pressure will be sent to you this email shortly. And then it asks you again. Then when you exit, another scenario, when you exit, the message that you see depends on the time of the day when you run this application. Have a nice Wednesday. See, it's because today is what day of the week? Wednesday. So somewhere it has to use the date entity to pick up the day of the week, okay? And also it has to use the date entity somewhere to decide which doctor is on duty, right? Which picture to display, okay? So that's it. This is it, right? See, this is a goodbye. If it's on the weekend, it's gonna tell you have a nice weekend, right? So basically, you have to check the day of the week. That's what you do. All right. Well, looks complicated, but this is something like how your diagram is gonna look like, okay? And a pass through this diagram is a conversation scenario, like what we did, right? You want to you want to receive an email. That's a scenario. You want to interpret your blood pressure reading. That's a scenario in here, right? So what you do is, well, this is just a summary. You're gonna create a new skill. Skill is also known as a workspace, right? In some of the readings. But if you go if I go launch the service, right, and you launch the service from where? You go to resource list. Nobody here is going to create, except me, nobody here is going to have 5 copies of the same service, okay? So, and this one. I'm going to launch the service now, okay? But you're going to have one. I had to have multiple. It's because when I help people, I just take, when I help people, I just take their JSON files and import, etc. Okay. So now launch Watson Assistant. And if you can see, you can have up to 5 skills, right? So whenever you run out of things, right, run out of skills you may have, you just have to export the JSON file and delete whatever you don't need, right? So, Mr. BMI, this is what we're gonna do here. This is what we'll do. But while we are here, so this is a skill, right? What you're gonna do to submit, you will have to download, see this download, and what it does, it saves the .json file to your download options, right? And what you will do, this is a file that you're going to submit. This is a dialog file. And the instructor will click on create skill and it will import skill from the dialog, right? Import skill from the JSON file, right? So you want to make sure that you submit the working chatbot, right? More or less working. So this is a Mr. BMI Help Center, and I'm gonna give you the JSON file after this, okay? So see here are the intents. Remember the difference between intent and an entity, right? So intent is an action. It's something that you want to do, like email me, goodbye, like you want to leave, explain, etc. But the entity qualifies the intent. For example, what you want to be explained, what blood pressure is, what the BMI is, right? So this is gonna be my entities, right? Email and the topic blood pressure, BMI. But for the email, this is a special entity because this is a pattern entity, right? You select type pattern and you enter this. This part is from documentation. This is okay. This is example of the code reuse, right? I took that. Then you could also have another example would be the phone number. The phone number must follow certain format. And the phone number could have multiple patterns because you have what? Local phone number and international phone number, right? So you can have more than one valid pattern, okay? So just remember this. Then, as an ungraded exercise, you're asked to uh, compare the system entities with user entities, right? So what is the system entity? You start with SYS, right? Those are the, okay. Oh, how do I get what history? Can you elaborate on the history? I'm not sure. What do you mean the history? Okay. Please elaborate. Amar, please explain. I'm not sure what the question is. Okay? No problem. No problem. But what I'm saying here, look, here those are what the system entity, like currency, date, right, system number, percentage, and system time. So basically those you don't import them, right? A regular other user entities you can import them from the file if we are a little bit lazy to key in stuff, right? Uh, you can also when you export the chatbot, right? It goes with you. It's exported. When you import the JSON file, right? The entities got imported. These ones we don't import them. We don't export them. They're just there for you. All right. Then you need to enable them. See this? Turn them on or off if you don't use it. Okay. And this is a reserved name. SYS is a prefix. So make sure when you create user entities, they cannot start with SYS in the name, right? Okay, so I hope that makes sense. You have to use at least one of those. I use the date and time, and I'm using the number. All right. So there we go. That we talked about the skill. Well, I just put a lot of notes for you here, so that way you can have it. You can have the explanation what I did, right? So dialogue, again, this is, what is this? This is a lot of vocabulary that you should have studied by right now, all right? So this is how the dialogue looks like. But this part was not in a walkthrough where you create a folder, but whole the idea is that you can collapse the related nodes. See? Like information on a topic, I want to here explain what BMI is. In this node, I'm explaining what the blood pressure is. But the problem with this is, what am I doing here? Hard coding, right? So this response type is text, right? Okay, this is the text of the response. Remember response variation, so if I rerun the chatbot, it's going to paraphrase things differently, right? This is the image response type. You specify the image source. Important. The image source size must contain either GIF or PNG or something like that, right? JPG. So this should be an image, right? And you cannot paste the pictures here directly. You must specify the URL of an image, okay? You can add description, it's optional. For the video, you just specify the video URL. When you go on YouTube, you can right click on video and you can get the video URL. So that's how you do that, right? Okay, so you have to have you have to have different response types in your chatbot that you implement. So depending on the topic, if you can go to YouTube and you can find a video on that topic and just put the video source. Okay, this is how you do that. Now, Remember that jump to it says where to go, and in here it goes to the main menu. Main menu node is in. There is a main menu node that where it's going. Okay. Now, sorry, I have to scroll up. It's a child node of the welcome node. Okay, it's implemented this way here. Now, what is it done here? Well, let's look at this. We're gonna look at this. This is a welcome node, right? What's going on in here? This is conditional response, right? It's looking at the time when the chatbot is launched. Welcome node has a condition, right? Welcome condition is triggered when the chatbot is started. What happens? Uh, it shows a greeting message, but what's a message? It depends on when the chatbot is launched. So this is the syntax now, right? And it's checking at the current time, and here it's checking if right now it's before 10 a.m. Here it's checking if right now it's after 5 p.m. So it goes actually between 5 and midnight. Here goes midnight and 10. Now, anything else? Do not get confused in here, please. There is a node called anything else, but this is a condition anything else. This is what happens when the time is not between midnight and 10 in the morning, and the time is not between 5 p.m., right, and midnight, right? So that's basically that little time of the day between 10 and 5, right? Then it's gonna show this picture. So what is this? I'm gonna click here. This is the text response, and this is the image response, right? You cannot copy and paste the image. You have to find the image URL. And how do you get it? Well, images are free. You search Google, you do Google search for images, right? And you specify the image URL. You can get that. This is free, right? Free images. Right. So that's that. Okay. Now how is it configured the blood pressure? It's doing it is using the in fact it's using the context variables, because what it's gonna do, well, to show you this I need to run try it. When you do try it, remember manage context. Here it will show which variables you currently have set, which context variables. Attempt, well, I'm using it for the email node. This is today's date. There is more than one way to do that, but I did it. I did it like this. I put it in a variable, right? In the beginning, I just set it as context variable, and this is what time zone it gets pulled by itself. Okay. Now, what I'm gonna do right now? Look here. I'm gonna go to do the my blood pressure, right? It should work here. Ooh, blood pressure readings. Here we go. Now it worked. Now, it's asking me to enter the systolic blood pressure. Watch what's gonna happen. So systolic is a high reading, right? I'm gonna put blood pressure, 130, right? And gonna click enter. Look what's gonna happen. Now I have 5 variables. See this? This is a context. This is what I'm doing in here. Systolic, it's a variable name, and it's set to 130. What is this? This is reading the number entity, right? Okay, this is reading the number entity. Now it's asking me for diastolic blood pressure, and I can type 80, right? I can type 80, it's gonna pick up still. Okay, there we go. Now it says your blood pressure is elevated. Adopt healthy lifestyle. But when I go in here, see this, it's all saved in the context variable, and I can use it later. Oh, similar that in your walkthrough that you're doing, you're prompting user for a name. Name is saved in a context variable. Then in the goodbye node, you're displaying the message to the user and you are including the person's name as part of the message. So this is where you're saving something in a context variable for later use, right? So as an exercise, you are asked to display the message in a goodbye note, okay? So you're not going to be asking the person to enter name again. The user entered name once and you use it, okay? Got it? Okay, and then here, this is just displaying the menu. It displaying the menu again, right? I have to scroll down. See here, that shows the options, what I want to do next. And as you see, sometimes it's kicking in response and ambiguation. It doesn't quite fully understand what I wanted to do for some reason, and it's trying to kind of like guess, okay? Now, see here. Okay, let's come back. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Each node has an entry condition. So, basically, like, like here, if you do, like here's this one, for example, right? This one is explain blood pressure. Entry condition is explain, and the topic is blood pressure, right? You can put the entry condition on the entities and also on intents or both, okay? You can do that. This is just showing you how to put an image response. Remember, you cannot copy and paste the picture here. Now, this one, I need to explain this really well because, well, I received some questions in advance about this. Response type option. What is this? It has several properties, right? So title, this is what is displayed to select, right? How may I help you? The text. Here is a list of options. Each option has a label. Label is how the option is displayed. Value is what actually is an intent that gets triggered when that option is selected. Okay? Option value is an intent that gets triggered. For example, I have an intent called goodbye. When you select an exit option, it's going to trigger goodbye. This is equivalent to me typing the word goodbye in a prompt, right? I can type goodbye and it's going to trigger the goodbye intent, right? That's what it will do, right? It's equivalent to typing goodbye. But the reason you would use options because it helps user know what the chatbot expects. You don't want to put generic prompt. Hey, how can I help you? This is not good because if I'm your end user, I don't know what the chatbot expects. So you have to have some kind of like a meaningful greeting, right? And if you have those options, it's gonna help, right? I know what I can do, and I just select the option. That's one way to handle the unexpected input because you're gonna have less unexpected input if you just put these options, right? So remember, value is what gets triggered. This is a little bit similar if you're familiar with HTML, where each option has a display text and a value, right? So email me. If I select email me, what happens? It activates the email me intent. Then it's gonna go through all of the nodes, right, and check which node gets turned on by email me condition. Okay, hopefully that helps. I hope so. And this is just how you store the systolic and the diastolic blood pressure. So what are we using here? This is called a slot. A slot basically allows us to collect the user's input, right? So if you look at this here, it's not, well, I can look at the blood pressure, it does not matter, right? Well, see here, what it's doing, it's checking for the sys number. This is what system entity, right? It's checking to make sure that you enter the number, and then it's going to store it in a systolic variable. That's a context variable. And if it did not find the number in your input, it's going to reprompt you to enter, right? And same thing here. diastolic. But you should be able to exit the application at any time, right? So that's what it is, handler. Handler allows you switching topic during the conversation without losing track. So what do I have in here? First of all, this one is a goodbye intent. So whenever it recognizes the goodbye intent, then it's just gonna quit. It's just gonna go to goodbye note. It's gonna exit this conversation. Then, or also you can do, if you type something like an explain, you're gonna see this message. Okay, you're just gonna see this message here, right? So basically here, it allows you to display this little clarification without going away from the main flow, right? So if I go to trial, I want to clear it. Every time, actually, when you make a change or something, you want to do clear to retest. So I'm gonna do this, my blood pressure. Oh, still not, I don't know why it's still going to response disambiguation. But see this is a blood pressure, right? Right now, see, like now I can type the word explain, right? It's gonna catch the intent, right? It's gonna catch the handler. The handler explain this. The handler explains what the blood pressure is, right? And then you ask to enter the systolic blood pressure again. See, so I didn't lose the flow of where I was in the conversation. Okay, so that's the whole idea behind handlers. And I heard that this is one of the common things that people miss in the implementation. They forgot to add the handler, right? So anyway, if I was running your application, I should be able to quit at any time I want, right? And of course, the slots, they're not enabled by default. You have to customize. You have to go to the settings, right? It's in here, customize, and in here you have to turn the slots on, right? They're not enabled by default. Then for these variables, in general, for the variables that you set not via slots, you can use the context editor, or you can edit the JSON code directly, right? So if you look at the welcome node, right, there is also, I'm also doing something in there. Maybe it's in the menu. Well, see this? This is what I'm doing here. I'm extracting the day. This is a variable. See, this set the context. You have two ways to do it. You can use the context editor, the way I'm doing here, or you can edit the JSON code the way it's showing to you in the walkthrough. Okay. Now, and see that this is a now, right? And what it's doing, it's taking this one reformat date and time, and this is taking the day of the week. 5 letters E is a full spelling, and the 3 letters E is an abbreviation. This is just from the documentation, all right? And it's setting at temp to 0. Okay, so here I just displaying the options. But just remember that this, you can do it multiple ways. See this, I can do a close content, context, and I can do open JSON. So this is another way. This is, you can edit the JSON file directly. Okay, you can do that. So just know that there are two ways to do it. Okay, close. Okay, okay. This is just to set the context. This is how you set these two variables. This is just how to extract an email. So trust me, it took me about half an hour to get it to work. So what is this? So you have to do this value is email.literal, because this is reading the regular expression here. So email me. That's one reason you want to start doing this early, because things like this, sometimes you get stuck. You know what I'm saying? See, this is email me, right? And here in the email me, I'm asking for the email. I'm trying to read it in a variable. But what is this? This is save as email, and you're checking for the email, valid email, right? Then what you doing? Well, this is just X as a dummy value. If a user exceeded the number of attempts to enter valid email, it just sets to dummy value X. Okay, that's what it's doing. But here, what I'm doing wrong, I didn't put the handler. Well, I didn't, but at least in this case, I'm gonna break this loop. If the user does not put valid email on the 3 attempts. But what do I mean by valid email? I'm not gonna attempt to send an email and say, okay, this person exists. No, this is just checking the syntax. Okay. Well, see, this is and then this is a response, right? It's a conditional response. Okay. So this is just the slot. See here, it's checking for the email. Then it just responds, right? Okay, and what is this? Well, if it recognizes what it's doing is this here, it's checking for the attempt, right? If you already used more than allowed number of attempts, right? So if this was the third attempt, actually, because see, when you run in the first time, when you ask him to enter email the first time, I set the attempt to 0, right? So what is it says, if if you exceeded the number of attempts, it's gonna just give you this message. Otherwise, well, if you did not exceed this message, otherwise it's just gonna do, it's gonna ask it again. So this is not found. This is what happens if the valid email is not found, right? And here are the variables. See this? So if the valid email is not found, then treat it as an X. And this is adds 1 to the attempt. It will add 1 to the attempt, okay? And this is the response. This is what happens, okay? Just make sure that you understand this. Right, so this is not found, and this is the found. And this is just, oh, this is try to enter valid email, and this is the attempt, right? Okay, and here it just, yeah, so here, yes, it adds 1 to attempt. It adds 1, okay? But X value is a dummy. X value is a dummy, just to check, okay? Now, so I hope it makes sense. It's a lot to cover. This is a syntax to extract the day, right? It's just a syntax, all right? Well, in goodbye note, it's just gonna display the date, the day. It's just gonna check if what date is it today. If it's Sunday or Saturday, then it's gonna display one message. If it's a weekday, it's gonna display the other. But actually, you want to take the JSON files that I give you, import it, and you want to run it on a different days, just to make sure, just to check what it will show, depending on the time of the day and depending on the day of the week. Because right now it's really hard to show this because we're not gonna stay on this call until morning, right? All right. So this is just the syntax. The variable name is prefixed with a $sign, right? So folders is nothing, just but I showed you it allows you to group nodes you want to collapse, right? You want to collapse part of the chatbot, let's say, right? Well, this is just the testing scenario, estimate BMI, and see this, it's showing me here which entity is recognized, right? Well, it does show it's irrelevant, but you can see that it's reading the system entity 110, right? In this case, it's reading the number. It's reading the number from the user's input. See, this is what it's doing. This number, this is what the system entity. Okay, just remember that. And this is just showing you what happens email. you will have to analyze, right? Like, okay, what is this email me? This is the intent, what the chatbot recognizes, right? But then what happens when I put something that the chatbot does not recognize? What happens, right? Or sometimes I can put something synonym for email me and the chatbot does not recognize it. Like, for example, contact me. I can say contact me, and the chatbot does not recognize it as email me. Then you have to train the chatbot to recognize it, right? You see this drop down here. When you do try it, there is a drop down. So if it did not recognize the correct intent, you can always click here and select the correct intent. Okay? This is one way to train the chatbot while you're in a development mode. But you also need to train the chatbot while you are done, right? While the chatbot is running. So let's see what's going here. We went over that. Now, well, you have to do this for the assignment. You have to create an assistant, and I'm gonna do it again in here. All right. So this is assistant. What you're gonna do? You're gonna do create assistant. And you're gonna type a name, right? Like I can do this. I can type a name. Description is optional. Create assistant, right? Then here you have to add your dialogue skill, which is this one, Mr. Beer My Help Center. This is my dialogue skill. Now, important, very important. You click on a preview. This is the link that you have to share with your with people with whom you want to look at the chatbot. Because for part of the assignment, worth 15% of the grade, you need to run the experiment. So this is a link here that you would give to your testers. Your tester could be myself, you can use me, you can use your family members, your friends, anyone. It does not matter. Anyone can be your tester, okay? Now, all right. So you're gonna build this assistant. You're gonna use the preview link, right? This is just how to do it. All right. Well, this is a little bit. I have to update the slide, but you know where preview link is, right? Okay. Experiment. So about 2 to 3 days before the assignment is due, your chatbot is gonna be ready. You have to share your link with at least 2 to 5 friends. At least there is no limit of TA, right? And TA can be part of your experiment. You're going to ask each participant to run 3 to 4 conversations per day. So ask them to run different scenarios. At the end of the first day, you're going to look at the conversation logs, and I'll show you. And then you can make a necessary classification adjustments if needed. Then you want to note any adjustments that you make. Note what the top intent and top entities are. Then you're going to run the experiment on the second day, and have you noticed any difference in the relevancy of responses, right? Like, for example, I give you an example, email me, I can type in contact me, and contact me is not recognized, and you're going to need to adjust the intent classification to make it recognized, right? Then you're gonna think about it. Okay, after the second day, you want to look at the data again, and you're gonna let's assume that you are going to run this for the third day. What additional changes would you make? Then you want to explain your observations in a paper. So what expected, not just the screenshots, but the explanations of the screenshots. What is this? What does the screenshot show, right? So I'll show you where conversation log is located. I need to go back to my skill. Well, this is the Mr. BMI. This is the skill. You have to go to analytics, click on the overview. Make sure that you run the experiment for 2 days. This gives you the number of conversations that you have. This is the average number of messages per conversation. This is maximum conversation per day, I think. And this is a weak understanding. So sometimes the chatbot could not quite understand what you say. Okay, so coverage, I believe it's checking the percentage of the chatbot logic that was actually called, right? So this is just showing you average number of messages, total messages for each conversation, and then the number of users who ran your chatbot. So you can see that here, average conversations per single user. This shows you the top intents. It's important because see, it tells you what the customers are doing with your chatbot. So that gives you an idea where to focus on. What can you do to enhance the chatbot? Like for example, here people use more to explain the concept. You want to make sure that the information that you put in is up to date, right? Again, you have to make sure it's up to date. But there is a little problem with this, little limitation with this implementation, right? How do I do it up to date? That's a thing to research. What other ways I can do to have an up-to-date information? And one way was you have a Watson Discovery service. At a moment, the free option was deprecated, but it does not stop you from reading the concept, right? What you could do is you could create something called a web crawler, and you can build the repository in a Watson Discovery service. You could build a repository of documents, and you can pull the documents from the repository to answer users' questions, right? You can also set up something called webhook. Webhook calls another API. It calls the functions. You can define the cloud function. The function pulls the information from another web page, right? It pulls information from another web page and it returns a result. All right. So just know that I just showed you two. I just discussed two ways, but you need to be creative, and let's leave it up to your homework to just to think about it. What can we do to display the information dynamically, right? So see this, I know that my users use explain a lot. So then I have to make sure that my information is up to date in here, right? And this is what is doing what entity it's picking up. And I can always go and click on the conversation. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna go view logs. See this? Well, and it's trying to pick up. Oh, see this? I put a chair. That's irrelevant. That's correct. But sometimes, see this? I put fat, but I think it should have picked up body mass index, right? What could I do? I can open this conversation. See this is, I can look at the classification. It's classified it as irrelevant. But what I could do is I can edit my classification and I can set it as BMI, right? I can set it as BMI here and I can click save. So next time when I run this chatbot, if I type the word fat, it's gonna know that I want to look at my BMI. So now it's time for a day 2. I'm gonna go in here. I'm gonna run this chatbot. This is my day 2, right? Remember I edited. So instead of selecting an option, if I type the word fat, it's gonna know that I'm looking for the BMI. Right? It's calling the intent called the estimate the BMI. See, that's what I did. But initially, it did not recognize what fat is. I edited this. I edited this. See, so if I am the one testing your chatbot, I'm going to try to enter something on a topic. Right? It's on a topic that your chatbot is, but maybe some type of synonyms that it does not recognize. Right? So that's what I'll usually try to do when I test. Okay? So, but just remember that you can adjust the classifications. That's how you handle it. But is this the only way to train the chatbot? No. You could also write in general, you could write the Python code to analyze data, right? So just think about it. You can do it programmatically, right? So next thing here, you're gonna look at user conversations, right? Here I put some of the technical stuff where you can reuse some of the expressions like for date and time. This is not cheating. This is fine. You are reusing the expression. This is a code reuse, but you're using it for your own chatbot for something that you're building, right? Like for example, you can build a UMGC graduate advisor where user can get information about different programs, right? So suppose that you decided to copy the logic for the options dropdown. This is fine because you're gonna take the logic and you're gonna put your own options, right? But no problem, you can reuse, you can repurpose the expression like email, the phone, right? But what you don't want to do is you don't want to go online and find already implemented chatbot, steal the JSON file and submit as your own. And trust me, very often it's very easy to catch that because you might not be fully understand what the chatbot is doing, and the paper that you submit does not match what the chatbot is actually doing. See, what you're discussing in the paper does not match what your chatbot is actually doing. It's very easy to catch for instructors, so please keep that in mind, okay? And this assignment, I would recommend everybody to do it, regardless of your current standing in the course. Even if you are not doing well in the course, please do this assignment still. Why? Because what you'll do is you will walk away with feedback from instructor. And if you are the one who end up retaking the course, you're gonna have a feedback to start from, right? So very important. Well, it's a last assignment, and I always say that. So no matter what you're standing in the course, even if you know that, even if you get 100, you're still not gonna make it. Still do the assignment because the instructor will grade it, and you're going to walk away with feedback that will help you next time when you retake the course. So there might be some modifications to assignment, but you know, still the feedback is very helpful. Okay. So yeah. But okay, now it's time for questions. Any questions? Or I'll start asking questions. Is everyone still awake? Folks, any questions? Because by this time, you, yes,
Do we need to submit the ungraded assignment, or that's just a part of our testing and exercise?
you don't need to submit the ungraded work, but you have to do it. That's a
Got it.
thing. Yes,
Thank you.
because yes, because if you don't do it, what's gonna happen? You're not gonna know what to do, right? It's an opportunity, just a way to learn the software.
Yeah. Can you go back once again your initial those options that you gave, right? To check the pressure, blood pressure, check the test.
Uh-huh.
If you go to the
Slide.
IBM, yeah, and
Oh.
go to the IBM, how that those option gets displayed, because you are
Ah.
also giving the link to external. So want to see again how that's
Which
working.
one? Okay, so I'm gonna go to the
Your very
dialog.
first menu, yeah, very first menu,
This one
yeah,
here.
and
Basically,
okay,
okay.
but these are like an active link, right? When you display, when you try it,
Ah.
the estimate we have, this becomes a link, isn't it?
Uh, yes, but what's happening is that it triggers the intent because well, but I need to show you the intent. Well, do you
Okay.
see this? This is the
Yeah,
intent that I have, BMI. It pretends as if you're typing the word BMI.
got it. If you can click there, can you click there? Does it go
Uh,
somewhere like in
oh,
webhook
here,
or
intent?
yeah?
No, this is just an intent. It's a definition. I imported this code. See this? And what is this? Ah, what is this fed? This is what we just did a minute ago, right?
Correct.
Remember? It was not recognizing. So I trained the chatbot and it added fat here. All
Got it.
right? Yeah. But it's basically what it's doing, it's triggering the intent because see this, if you go to this dialog and this node has an entry condition BMI. See this, so we need to trigger this node somehow. We need to trigger this node. And how do we do this? We need to use the intent name. This is equivalent to typing the word BMI.
Got it. And this for all those 4 or 5 option, everything has one intent, right?
Every option corresponds to one intent. Exactly.
Got it.
Excellent. Yes.
But why then it is that when you use the value, it is not displayed at hash BMI? So that's the reason I got confused. Because when
Oh,
you go, yeah, it was just said BMI, not hash BMI, right? So
it's just the syntax. BMI is the intent name, right? But
yeah,
here you call it. Jesus, you specify it with a hash here. Excellent question. You specify it with a hash here if assistant recognizes. This is with a hash. But in the menu, in where you show the menu, right? You put it without hash.
correct.
Okay?
Yeah, that's right.
This is it's a technical detail. It's a syntax.
Got
No,
it.
but
Thank you.
I like these questions. I like these questions because those things sometimes could take a little bit of time to get. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to understand, to get this, because this here is without a hash, but when you check the condition, it's with a hash.
Correct. That's the reason I got confused. How it is calling and how it is identifying. Yeah, got it.
Yeah, it just the syntax, all right? Oh, and don't worry about this 8 days left. Don't worry about this because, well, if you ended up the one with incomplete, if you ended up the one, or if you after this course, if you want to play around with this more, once 30 days expire, you can get 30 more days, or you have an option to extract the JSON file, and then you can delete the service, add another instance of the service, and re-import the JSON file. You get another 30 days. So don't worry about this 8 days thing, okay? The service, yes, it's 30 days, but you can, once 30 days expire, you just delete and add another instance and import the JSON file. That was it, right? And so you will do that, but to show you this, how to import, first of all, let me delete what I don't need, right? I don't need that. I don't need the skill. Delete. Okay. So what you'll do is I'm gonna give you Mr. BMI. So what you will do, you're gonna go create skills. You're gonna select the dialog skill. Gonna choose next. You're gonna do upload skill, and then you're gonna click and find the file where you saved the JSON file. Okay, that's all. This is what you're gonna do. But let me see. Uh, I will provide the JSON file as an example. Yes, yes, you're gonna have this file. I'm gonna give it to you. Just for you to play around with this. Yes, of course. Okay, but okay. Do we have to import a file? What do you mean import a file? Can you explain it to me? Can you elaborate, Emma? Can you elaborate here? What do you mean import the file? Are you talking about importing entities from the file? How you do it, this is up to you. You can type it in a file and then import, it's up to you, or you can type it manually in this application. The reason you are asked to import it from the file in a walkthrough is because otherwise this walkthrough would have been 100 pages long. Okay, so it's just easier, import and then use. All right, who wants to do 100 pages long walkthrough? Probably not you, right? So we have to have a way to kind of like, you're still doing it, but faster. Okay, you don't want to be keying in. Okay, and to exit the screen, you click on X. All right. Any more questions?
Could you go back through the attempts where you had it try 3 attempts? Just
okay. So it's in a email me. Oh, this sorry. That was just this is the intent to send an email. There is an email intent and email entity. I need to go to the dialog. Okay, so this is in here. Email me. So what it's doing is it's checking if the email matches the syntax, right? And it's saving it as an email. If not, then it's gonna ask this message. But I'm gonna look at it again. See, this is the configuration. I'm gonna look at it. Well, you specify what happens if the email is found in the input and if it's not found. So in here, I'm just doing here, if it's not found, see, you have to specify if it's not found, you're gonna bump up the attempt. When you started, that number attempt was 0, right? So here, see this if attempt is well, let's click on this here. This is more in here. So what it's doing is that it's setting it to X, right? Because it's an invalid, it's setting the variable to X. And then it's gonna add 1 to the attempt. It's gonna add 1 to the attempt. See this? Sorry, you must enter the valid email. Let's go back. Well, anything else? This one is... Oh, this one it reprompts you. See this? Because attempt starts with 0, right? Let's look at the try it again. Oh, discard. Look at this. Let's look at the try it. I'm gonna do email me the information, right? Email me the information. Look at this. Manage context. Attempt is 0, so the user has tried how many times? 0, right? So now I'm gonna type it something like this. What happens? It's asking me to try entering the email again. An attempt is bumped to 1. So it means that I lost. I had one bad attempt, right? So now it's asking me, the logic is asking if the number of past bad attempts is greater than 1. Is it? No. Then I'm gonna give you another attempt, right? It's giving me another attempt, and I can put something incorrect, right? It's gonna ask again, what's happening? I'm doing it twice, right? Is it greater than? So it updated it to 2, right? It added 1. Now the number of bad attempts is 2. So I'm gonna type something bad the third time. It's gonna check. Did I type something wrong more than once? Yes, I did. Well, what is it gonna do? It's just gonna exit this. And if you look at this, it set this to dummy value x. Well, oh, it's now null. But quickly before that, I was setting it to x. An attempt is reset to 0. See? So somewhere I'm resetting this attempt to 0. Oh, it's in here. See, this is where I display the menu. Each time I display the menu, the attempt is reset to 0. It's in here. See? Because then I can call again and I can try again. I can select email me again and do 3 more attempts to enter valid email. See that? I hope it helps. I hope it
that was
helps.
helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, because see, there is more than one way to do that. Maybe you will have a better solution. Who knows? But this took a while too. One thing that I need to tell you is this: when you make a change to the implementation, you have to retest everything. Trust me. So that's why I say start working on this assignment early. And it does not have to be as complex as this. This chatbot started as an answer to student question. The student asked, could you show me something with numbers? Like reading numbers from the reading users input and doing some manipulation. That's how it started. So I said, okay, what could make sense? Maybe getting the blood pressure from the user, something like that, right? So that started like that. Then I started every semester I was adding stuff to this. This time I added a video and removed some stuff because now we don't have the discovery service. Last semester we did the integration where you build the repository of documents, right? And you could basically pull related documents on your topic. And another good thing was if the user input was not recognized, it would try to search that repository for an answer. Like this one, if I type CPR, the chatbot is not trained on information about CPR. But if I integrate it with discovery, it will still attempt to search the repository on a CPR. And see, you don't want to be, the idea is what can you do to avoid the hard coding? So that's a research question. You don't need to actually implement it at the moment. Maybe you will in the next semester if you were taking, but not at the moment. You just need to, it's a theoretical question, okay? More questions? I love questions because it shows that you're working on assignment. And also both professors, anything you would like to add to this? Professor Ozan, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yes, Yelena, one more time, I want to say that please don't do the same examples that we have in our course content in this help session. I just want to ask, please, everybody be creative and create your own examples. And also, please make sure that you try to deliver all the requirements in the rubric. We will be grading per the rubric. And Yelena, thanks for the session.
Sure, most welcome. Yes, yeah. Some people miss, and most commonly missed part, I think it's handlers because I've been testing the chatbot as part of the 2-day experiment, and sometimes it just stuck. It keeps on asking something repeatedly, and there is no way to break the conversation. So I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you put a handler in a slot to be able to exit the conversation? See what I'm saying? So I think it's a good idea to include me as part of your testing team, but it's up to you. But just submit the case and I will test the chatbot. Should be easy, right? So, any more questions, team, folks? I called your team, but
Yeah, if you have time, there's something called disambiguation. If you can show that.
oh, disambiguation.
Yep.
Sometimes you type something that is not fully recognized. So if I go, oops, no, this.
And it should give some options, right? Actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Like for example, if I type something like abyss, it's gonna try attempt to. Ooh, see, it found it. It found what I want. But earlier, do you remember earlier it was giving me the choices, right? It was giving me the choices. Sometimes it does not fully understand.
But
Yeah.
to give the choices, is that some selection we made because, or is it like just an automatic? Because I tried a couple of unknown thing, it never gave me that option.
Ah, did you turn it on? Did you turn that on?
Yeah, I turned it on and
It's disambiguation. You turn it on.
yes, and the welcome one. Yeah.
Sometimes it will do it. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes it
Yeah,
will.
that's what happened. It worked once, and then I'm trying last 2 days, it didn't work. So that's why I thought I'll ask this question.
I'm trying to now.
Because in the assignment, there are 2 examples, right? So I did
Yes.
one, second not working.
Well, sometimes when you type something, sometimes it does give you, right? Sometimes it does not. But the whole idea is that it will look at the confidence, it will look at the strengths of matching. There is a response match confidence. If the confidence is high, then it's gonna attempt to think, this is what you want. Is it what you want? Is it not what you want?
No problem. I'll check it again. No problem. Thank you.
Well, no, it's checking the confidence. It's checking the response, the confidence, right? Like, but usually, if I type something that it's not recognizing completely, oh, see this? I just
Yeah,
typed the word missing.
got it.
Do
Yeah.
you mean this, none of the above? So this is a disambiguation. It attempts to guess what you're trying to do, but it's also looking at the confidence of a match. See what I'm saying? Yeah. Let me see. Yes, you will get the PowerPoint slides, and you're gonna get this JSON file. So what you're gonna expect is that you're gonna get the recording of this session, you're gonna get the JSON file, and you're gonna get the slides. Okay? Does it help? I hope it helps.
Yes,
Right.
it does.
Okay. So what else? Oh, okay, sure, no problem. Of course, I call this customer service. It's my vocabulary that I use for these sessions. Okay. All right. So anything else, folks? No? If there are no more questions, no more comments, I guess I'm gonna wish you guys good luck. This is your last week of the semester, right? And enjoy, right? Okay. If that's it, I'm gonna call it a night, and I want to thank everybody for joining this session. Oh wait, what do I see? Okay, most welcome, guys. All right, I'm gonna end the recording and call it a night.